So it's almost the end of 2024, and as with so many of us, I've been spending a lot of this, time reflecting, and I've been reflecting on some of my biggest lessons for 2024 that I'm also going to be taking into 2025, and I thought to share with you, in the hopes that, it's going to help, you as well. And I think top of the list for me would be that if you are looking for an excuse not to do something, you will find it. So at the beginning of the year, I remember that, I told myself that this year was going to be a slow year. I was going to take things really easy. I'm still healing from, my grief, and that's all I'm going to do. And I think that it was not up until like April or May of this year that I started to say, hey, you know what, like, especially with what you're going through, there will never be a time when you're going to be done with grief. And you can sit down and tell yourself that, hey, it's until you're fully healed, that's when you're going to start to go after your goals. And with a lot of us, we do have, some other excuses as to why we're not able to do certain things. It could be, oh, it's just not the right time. Oh, the market is like this. Oh, I'm still doing X, Y, Z. Oh, my kids. Oh, my family. Oh, what would people say kind of thing could be some of the excuses that we have. And until you realize that there will never be a perfect time, a perfect place, a perfect space for you to actually start to do something, until then, that is when you're going to get out of whatever excuse that you're giving yourself as to why you're not doing some things. Like, this is so real, because not until I had that conversation with myself to say, hey, you do realize that this is an excuse, right? There will never be a perfect time that you're going to say, oh yeah, so now I'm totally done. And I think that helped me to really think about the next lesson that I'm going to be talking about, which is around keep moving no matter how slow. So one of the things that I did when I was done using my grief as an excuse as to why I'm not doing certain things is to tell myself, okay, even while I'm still feeling this way, how can I move forward? How can I still go after my goals even while I'm still healing, right? As I've already said, there will never be a time where I would say I'm completely healed from this, grief. So I told myself that I was gonna only pick one goal at a time and try to achieve it. Now, this is coming from somebody who is the queen of multitasking. I'm the kind of person that will juggle, multiple balls at the same time and do too many things at the same time. And I had to realize that the Jadisola of this season is slightly different, and I need to find other ways of making sure that she's still able to do the things that needs to be done for her to actually achieve her goals. So I started to, look at my goals, and one by one, I started to pick them. And what happened was that as I was, picking one goal and achieving it, I started to feel a bit more motivation to actually do a bit more. So sometimes maybe that's what you need, that you just have to, keep moving. It might be slow initially, and hopefully you will gain the momentum that you need, as opposed to just, sitting still, and just waiting for, you to be completely whole or to be rid of whatever excuses that you think you have as to why you're not doing certain things. Which leads me into the next lesson, which is about starting before you're ready. Now, I know that I did share a few months ago, that I had bought a second investment property, and there were a lot of messages that I got from, a lot of people, telling me congratulations, how did you do it, and all of that. And if I tell you that even at the time that I was viewing the property, it wasn't like I had all of the deposits saved up, but there's something that happens when you put yourself in a situation where you are actually starting before you're ready, viewing houses or going to take that course or actually booking that appointment or calling that person the moment you start to dial. And, even when you're not ready for something, that puts you in a mood where, you either get motivated to try to look for ways as to which you can actually still set yourself up to achieve this goal. Now, I know that, buying a property for a lot of people might be like, hey, that's a lot of money. Why would you start before you're ready? It's all about taking calculated risks as far as I'm concerned. I started to look at it that, yes, even though I don't have 100% of the deposit that I need at this time, I know that whatever thing I have saved up is close enough, and within a few months, I may be able to, meet up the deposit if I cut back on this kind of expense or if I save this much money every month. That was one of the things that I did. And I know that buying a house might sound like a bit extreme or start before you're ready for a lot of people, but it is true for so many other things that is not necessarily even financial. For example, like I've been talking about maybe getting my driving license for the longest time. And I know that the first step in that process is, doing the theory. And, I would, say, okay, until I've read and I'm ready to actually take the exam, that is when I'll go and register. But flipping it on the head and going to register for when I'm actually going to take the test and then going to study was one of the things that actually helped me, because the moment I booked the test, I knew the date was coming. So therefore, it felt like I didn't have any other excuse but to actually try and study for the test. And I think the same thing even with life in the UK test, when I needed to write it, is like, go and register for it first, because sometimes we have the tendency of saying, yeah, until I'm ready, that is when I'm not going to go and do some of the things, right? So starting before you're ready is like one of the things that helped me to achieve some of the goals that I achieved this year. Some of them are small and some of them are actually big. But it's just knowing myself in a way that I know that, okay, I can take some calculated risks. I know that I suffer from analysis paralysis, and if I don't take certain steps, which I've talked about this in previous videos where I talk about the point of no return, that if I can get myself to a stage where, I know that the moment I get to this stage, if I register for this, if I pick up that phone and I talk to someone about this, there is no going back. Identifying those points for me helps me, even when I'm not ready, to really go after whatever thing that I want to go. Like the moment I know that I've, picked a date for this, I may at the back of my mind know that, okay, maybe there's a possibility of me shifting the date. However, I'm going to try and commit myself to say, I don't want to shift this date, therefore I'm going to completely do it. And I know a lot of these things also comes from me understanding myself and what I'm capable of and the sort of risk that I'm hoping to, or that I'm open to taking, right? And just being able to be disciplined along the journey, right? And this takes me to the next lesson, which is not letting fear of missing out hold you back. There's one thing that I have been hearing a lot, and I know that I'm going to probably make a separate full video about this. And, some people, when I talk to them about some of the things that I'm trying to do, all I hear is live a little. It's not all about making money. It's not all about all of these goals. Live a little, learn to live a little, and I heard it a lot even this year. That is considerably like a really slow year for me. But I know that, there is time for everything. And it's okay for me to realize that if I want to grow aggressively in doing certain things in my life, I cannot be living a little. Like that, living a little, relax, right? It's not for me in this season of my life. I recognize that. And when I see a lot of my friends traveling, doing certain things, buying certain things, it's very easy for you to feel like you're missing out. But for me, I recognize that I'm only going to be missing out for a period of time. And I know that I want to achieve certain things in my life before I hit a certain age. Therefore, there are sacrifices that need to be made. So as I was hearing all this, relax, live a little, some of them, was coming from a good place of, you've gone through a lot in the last 1 year, so it's okay. Easily you can listen to a lot of this, similarly, like good advice. You tell yourself, yeah, it's actually okay, at least people understand my situation. But at the end of the day, right, you're the only one that knows how you're going to feel at the end of the year when you're taking stock and you're saying, oh my gosh, like the year is done and I actually didn't achieve some of these things. Or it might sound like, oh, maybe you're beating yourself up for not doing certain things, but this is your life at the end of the day. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're doing too much for yourself. And I think for me, I had to get to a space where I was okay doing too much for myself. It's for me at the end of the day. I know that if I aggressively go after certain things, then I can relax. I don't want to be doing certain things, in my old age, right? There's certain risks that I've told myself that I only want to take in my 30s and I don't want to take them in my 40s. Because in as much as, some people preach and say, oh, there's time for everything. You can always do these things later. There's no time restriction as to when you can achieve certain things. The honest truth is there are certain things that are time bound, whether we like it or not. There's certain things that we need to recognize that are the exception to the norm. When we talk about, oh, this person only started doing something at age 50. This person only, did their first whatever thing at age 60. So there is no time that you can't go after certain goals. Those are the exception to the norm, unless we want to lie to ourselves that this is the norm, right? It's like, for example, like you want to have kids, right? And you're saying, oh, I want to do it in my 60s or in my 70s. The honest truth is, yes, you can have kids at that time. But how many people can naturally have that at that age? It's not the norm. There will be alternatives that maybe you'll be able to use to have kids at that age. But if we're looking at the natural biological way, it's time bound. As a woman, that. The same thing, if you're looking at maybe achieving something in sports that is like really physical, like you want to be a footballer in Premier League, for example, at the age of 40, the likelihood of that really happening, that is when you want to start your career, is very slim. And until we start to be very honest with ourselves that there's certain things that you don't want to do at a certain age, not just even though the examples I've given are like things that have to do with your ability physically, the honest truth is sometimes it could be as simple as you now have a family, you now have kids. There's certain risks that you may not be able to afford to take because there are other people relying on you at that point in your life. And you have to be very honest with yourself that there's a season of sowing and then there's a season of reaping. And, there's certain times that it doesn't matter what you plant at that time. You become the exception to the norm if you start to reap, in that season. And I think I recognize that for myself and say, I know the kind of risks that I want to take in my 40s. I don't want to be taking like extreme risks financially, because I want to be in a position where I feel a bit more comfortable, slowing down, right? Because physically, mentally, you might not be in the same position. Life may happen as well. So I know that there's a lot that I want to achieve in my 30s. So that living a little and all of that, I just, I'm like, this is not the season to live a little for me. And I'm okay with that. So the next lesson for me will be, learning to pick my battles. And this is about, like, I can talk about so many battles that I chose not to fight this year. And it's just simply about, like, knowing where to channel your energy, right? I remember, like, one particular example where I signed up for a mentorship program last year. It was meant to be like a year-long mentorship program. At the time, I felt like I needed it, and it was also a lot of financial commitment that I was paying on a monthly basis. And I think at a point I realized that, hey, financially committing myself to this program every month would actually hinder me from actually achieving some of the other critical goals that I want to achieve this year. So I had to cut it short. And I cut it short at a point where I had committed so much money that I'm not even willing to say on this in this video. And I did try to see if I could get like a refund. I did reach out to them and I told them, hey, you know what? I'd paid maybe equivalent of maybe like 6 months of the program, and I'd only been in the program for like 2 months. And I, did appeal to them. Is it possible for me to get a refund and all of that? And they said no. And I thought about, different ways that I could fight them, to try and see if I could get some money back. But I had to pick my battles, and I'm like, okay, so this is a setback, right? I did put myself in this program. I did commit to this. I've realized now that even the main reason for going into the program, I probably would not be able to achieve that goal if I continue to stay in the program, right? So I had to pick my battle at the end of the day to say, hey, do you want to channel your energy, the little energy that you have this year, into fighting to try and get refund, or do you just want to cut your loss and move on? And I did cut my loss and I moved on. Yes, I know that not having that refund sort of like set me back. However, like, just knowing when to walk away from that program, and also channeling my energy into other things was really good for me, because at the end of the day, I was still able to achieve my goal. Yes, it was more challenging, but knowing when to walk away from a situation that is no longer serving you, learning where to channel your energy is one of the key lessons that you have to take with you into the year. It's not everything that you fight for. It's not everything that, just because you've committed so much time, so much effort, so much money into something, doesn't mean that you have to see it through. You have to recognize at some point when this thing is no longer, serving you or in your favor, and just, knowing when to back off. And yeah, I think that was one big lesson for me in 2024. I think the next lesson for me will be, how I spend my time, especially my evenings, making sure that, this time that I have where, after work, like after 5 o'clock in the evening, I'm able to use that time productively. At the beginning of the year, obviously, like, I was faffing around, like I would watch Netflix the moment I'm done with work, and that was what I was doing. And yeah, it was okay for me at the time. But then I remembered that a lot of the things that I've achieved in my short time in the UK were because I used my evenings properly. My 5 to 9 have been like my most productive time ever, where I'm able to focus on myself and the things that I want to achieve for myself personally. Even with work, I remember when I first started working, I was introduced to like new things that I needed to learn. And after work, I would spend my 5 to 9, learning those things, even though they had to do with my 9 to 5. For whatever thing I'm doing on the side, even things like, recording my YouTube videos, I did them, after work. So my 5 to 9, my weekends, I made sure that, I was using my time very well. Again, I recognize that this thing that I'm doing, because, so many people will come on my channel or message me about, it's because you're single, it's because you don't have kids, it's because of all of that. I recognize that it is a privilege, right? So why would I throw away this privilege? Because it's not everybody that has the opportunity to, have all of the time to themselves, after 5 o'clock. So I'm making sure that I am using this time, because I'm not going to have this forever, right? Where, I have all of this, 5-6 hours that I can actually use to do really productive things for myself, for forever. It was very important for me that the moment I recognized that, hey, I'm beginning to waste my evenings by just lying down and just watching Netflix, whereas I have, things to do, right? I knew that I needed to go back to the time where I was using my evening a bit more productively. Finally, I would say that maybe the last lesson for me was really curating my social media feed. And as simple as this sounds, it's really important that you understand what you're feeding yourself. The moment you're engaging with crap on social media, the algorithm is programmed to continue to show you that crap. So if you're engaging with content that are not going to grow your mind, that are not going to help with your self-development, that are not going to, serve your mental health, that's the thing you're going to be seeing. One of the content that I know that was really showing on my like Nigerian community TikTok, especially in the UK, is how the UK is bad vibes, how, nobody can do anything in the UK, how UK is so hard, how nobody can achieve anything, how these people just complaining. And even though, like, for a lot of people, these are what you might term as relatable content, because these are people in the same boat as you. But the honest truth is, how is that helping you? How is that helping you get out of that situation if all you're listening to, is complaining, right? Except those videos that after they've complained, they come up with, oh, this was how I was able to get out of that situation, right? Then there's no point consuming that content, because they will continue to show you that, right? Whereas if you are consuming content of people that are saying, in spite of UK being bad vibes, in spite of all the taxes in the UK, in spite of all of the difficulties in the UK, right, I'm still able to achieve this. You see how, you see where the difference is, where the content you're consuming is making you feel like it's okay for you to, have all of these challenges and just sit there and just complain, right? If you engage in content of people that, despite all of this, they are still, moving forward in their life, then that's a much better, content for you to consume. And this goes for every other thing. Like, I learned so much on social media, this year, learning a lot of DIY stuff, learning how to use AI properly. I learned all of these things from social media, all of the different types of property strategies that I can potentially try. I learned them from social media. I learned so many things from social media. So it's what you tell social media, for example, to show you that you're interested in, that it will continue to feed you with. So it's very important that you know that, this is one place, whether we like it or not, that we spend majority of our time. Outside of work, the next place we probably spend most of our time on is social media. So what are you feeding yourself, right? Like, I know that on the other hand, like, it could be like maybe you're seeing people that are doing well and you maybe start to resent them, right? That one, you probably need to check yourself as to why you feel like, you feel that way, right? You feel envious, you feel upset. And I did see a lot of those like really angry comments in some of my posts about some of the things that I've achieved, right? And people try to downplay your achievements because you seem like a privileged person, right, to them. And they can come up with all of the excuses as to why, they are in their own situation. For me, feeding myself with the right kind of content, and I think that, I started to do that the moment I moved to the UK. For example, I was engaging with content of people that were like maybe 10 years younger than I was. Some British Nigerian young women that are doing so well. And I'm trying to learn, what are they doing? What are they investing in? I was watching their channel. Like, you will never catch me watching videos that, are just like, plain nonsense, to be very honest. Like, anything that is not like aligning with my goals, I wouldn't engage in it. And you can talk about it as maybe, oh, it's because you're disciplined. I'm just genuinely not interested in those sort of things. Or I also know the impact of, listening to too much negative stuff. Like, it gets to a point where you start to believe it. Like, for me, like, I would listen to podcasts of people, listen to their stories of how they either overcame a challenge, built a business, invested in something. People that are growing. I wouldn't really engage in content of people like gossiping. Their content is not really lifting up my soul. That's not what I'm going to do. So if you look at my social media feed, it's very curated and aligned to the things that I want to achieve. And for me, like, that's one of like the best things that I could have done for myself this year, making sure that, despite whatever situation I started the year with, feeling low and all of that, I am consuming content of people that possibly felt that way but are now out of it, and the things they did and the steps they took, right? That helped me a lot because the algorithm started showing me more of those kind of content, and whatever other thing that I was engaging with, they were very positive. That was what I was seeing. So for me, this is some of the lessons that I've learned in 2024, and I'm excited and looking forward to, what 2025 has to offer. Anyways, I've come to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.